Howdy. Howdy. That's pretty good. I love that. On behalf of Mark Welsh, our dean, I'd like to welcome everyone to the Bush School of Government and Public Service and to the 2019 Bank of America program on volunteerism. You know, for 10 years, this program was housed in the Mosbacher Institute for Trade and Economics and Public Policy under the able leadership of Dr. Lori Taylor. Last year was moved under our newly established Center for Nonprofits and Philanthropy under the leadership of Dr. Will Brown, who I'll introduce shortly. You know, our namesake, President H.W. Bush, stated, "There could be no definition of a successful life that does not include service to others." Here at the Bush School, we're proud of the fact that over 70% of our graduates go into public service upon graduating. When we look at other schools, it ranges anywhere between 20 and 40%. If you ask our students why they're here, I can almost guarantee you that the response will be, because I want to serve others. I tell everyone that our students, our faculty, and staff come here every day to fulfill President Bush's dream when he said, "In 100 years, I hope the Bush School family and historians can look back and say that from our school came generations of people who were committed to public service for the right reasons. I hope it will be said that our students believed they could make a difference," and they did. If it seems that I'm a little proud about that, yes, I am. That's why I think the Bush School is the perfect home for the celebration of service, volunteerism, and philanthropy in Texas. Tonight is even more special because we have the honor of having the First Lady of Texas here with us tonight. I'd like to take a few moments and introduce some of the special people that we have in attendance tonight. First of all, sponsors from Bank of America, John Anderson and Eric Reed. Thank you. The Mayor of College Station, Carl Mooney. County Commissioner Irma Cawley. Representing Representative Bill Flores, we have his wife, Ms. Gina Flores. We have David Jones, the CEO of the George and Barbara Bush Foundation. We have Warren Finch and his wife. Warren is the director of the Bush Presidential Library. And could we have all the members of the Bush School Advisory and Development Council raise your hand for us? These are individuals that really support everything that we do there at the Bush School. Now, Neil Bush wasn't able to make it to the event tonight, but he did send a message that he wanted us to give to the group. "I regret that I cannot participate in this year's Bank of America program on volunteerism. The Center for Nonprofits and Philanthropy continues to carry forth my father's vision of having more people become engaged in voluntary service that lifts others. And the program that our leader, Will Brown, has organized for today offers a glimpse of wonderful things happening in Texas to encourage more people to serve more effectively. We're fortunate in Texas to have, one, a First Lady who prioritizes volunteerism and philanthropy statewide. Two, corporate leaders like Wells Fargo who are stepping up and doing more in deploying their employees to serve in communities where they work. Three, to have many innovative organizations like CitySquare designed to address some of our community's most intractable problems. And four, to have an agency like OneStar Foundation, led so ably by Elizabeth Darling, that does a great job leveraging human resources in recruiting volunteers that increase capacity for vital service. While I regret not being there with you, I'm sure you all leave better informed and more inspired by the speakers and their great work. Thanks to each of you for attending and being a point of light in the lives of others. Neil Bush. And now I'd like to introduce Dr. Will Brown, Professor, Director of the Center of Nonprofits and Philanthropy, and Director of the Graduate Certificate in Nonprofit Management. Dr. Brown.
Good evening. Thank you, Frank. It's a pleasure, a privilege to be a part of the Bush School. I appreciate all that the Dean and the administration has done to help us get the Center for Nonprofits and Philanthropy established. It's always the word that everybody jumbles up on. I figured I might as well do it myself, right? I appreciate all of you being here tonight as well. I recognize many of you. I hope I get a chance to visit a little bit. I've sort of first time putting this event on, and we're sort of working through some of the pieces and the kinks, but it's such an honor to be able to have you here, and I know many of you have been, you've given a lot, and it's a great privilege to be able to host in the Bank of America program in volunteerism. It's under that we had able leadership. Lori and the folks in the Mossbacher kept this under their stewardship. I will say it feels like it's come home. It feels like it's come to the place where it needs to be. We really see this as a signature piece of who we are at the center, and it's an honor to be able to have this a piece of what we do. I've been a professor for almost 20 years. I'm going to talk a little bit about myself and the center, and then I'll talk a little bit about what we're going to do tonight. But just to give you a little bit of background, I've been a professor for almost 20 years, 13 years here at the Bush School. It's been an interesting road to step into the role as the director of the center, and I must admit at times I feel a bit like the absent-minded professor. A bit confused, a few good ideas perhaps, or maybe not, I suppose, depending upon who you ask. But we have a wonderful group of folks who are really helping keep the pieces put together and put the wheels on. We could go all night sort of recognizing some of the people and their support for what we do. We're committed to creating a world-class program that reflects the spirit and nature of the Bush School and, of course, our namesake and Texas A&M University. I'm thankful for our advisory board. Let me just name off some of the folks that have served as our advisory board for the center. We just were meeting this afternoon and talking about what we're going to do next and where we can be. Neil Bush serves on our advisory board and has provided able leadership. He was obviously one of the first that we asked and said, would you consider incorporating this into your work? Other advisory board members, I'll say their names and then we can recognize them quickly. Robert Ashcraft is the executive director of the Lodestar Center for Philanthropy and Nonprofit Innovation at Arizona State University. Chris Bugbee is the chief operating officer of the OneStar Foundation. Elizabeth Darling is the chief executive officer of OneStar Foundation. Doug French is chief executive of Stylecraft Builders. Wynn Rosser, president and CEO of TLL Temple Foundation. And Adriana Rojas, president and CEO of the United Ways of Texas. Just for a moment, recognize them. I appreciate their service and the leadership that they've provided for us. I also work with some amazing folks who put together a lot of these things. And I just want to recognize Denise, who's done more than her first share to put this program together. And so I appreciate Denise Parker, but also Kenny Taylor's doing some wonderful work, Mary Hildebrand, Ellie Chu, Robbie Robichaud, and Nicole Collier. It forms our sort of core team of folks that are helping make sure we do what we need to be able to do to get ourselves moving forward. And I appreciate the Bush School on that. Yes, thank you. The mission of the center is to support a vibrant nonprofit and philanthropic sector in Texas and beyond, and we do this through high-quality research, professional outreach, and engaged learning. We were established in the fall of 2017, and with about a year and a half under our belt, we continue to understand more and more exactly what we're going to be able to do and how we can play a role in making a stronger Texas. Talk a little bit about this idea of what we mean by the nonprofit and philanthropic sector and how it relates to what we want to talk about tonight and thinking about volunteerism and the way that we support service and giving back to our communities. For us at the center, the nonprofit and philanthropic sector is really the glue that binds our communities together. It includes formal and informal institutions, our faith communities, cultural norms that inform how we interact and trust each other. There's a lot of names sometimes that we talk about: nonprofit sector, social sector, the third sector, civil society. But fundamentally, it functions alongside governments, beside business, along with businesses, to support a really high quality of life. While legal rules and laws set the structure for our lives and economic activity sustains our livelihood, it is really the social sector that gives it meaning when we begin to reflect a little bit about what these organizations are. It is our community of faith, our bonds and our friendships and our families and our health. While money sustains us, it does not provide that sense of purpose and meaning. That really only comes from how we connect and support each other. As the namesake of the school said, any definition of a successful life must include serving others. He goes on to give a couple of examples, such as serving in a child care center, in a corporate boardroom, in the Rotary, or Little League, or a tutoring program, or a church, or a synagogue. The list goes on, and each of us considers how we can give back and how we serve others. And many of you know this all quite very well. We know that what matters in the end are not possessions. What matters is engaging in the high moral principle of serving one another. That's the story of America that we can write to voluntary service. Again, the words of our founder, President Bush. It is the connections we have with each other that make a difference. And by being of service in all the different ways there are to serve, it becomes a powerful vehicle to engage and connect us with each other and our communities. You can make life more meaningful and worth living by helping others and helping them to solve their problems. The Center for Nonprofits and Philanthropy is concerned about civil society, that complex network of organizations, groups, social connections that build robust and vibrant communities. Without local connections and the trust that it builds, our communities run the risk of becoming more and more fragmented. We are well aware of the political divides that exist in our country, and many trends around equity and equality appear to sometimes be going in the wrong direction. Racial and economic inequality continue to be a concern in our communities. It's also interesting to note that when we look at the reported volunteer engagement between 2005 and 2015, academic, I can't help but cite a few numbers, we see a drop in volunteer engagement. In 2005, it was 26% of the population reporting engagement in volunteerism. By 2015, that was just 22%. So we see a substantial downturn in the number of individuals. That's about 6 million volunteers in 2005, but even with the growth in our state, that's still only about 6 million people in 2015. If we could have sustained that 26% participation rate in 2015, that would count for an additional 1 million individuals giving countless hours and time. The statistics suggest a couple of things. One, just 1 in 5 are reporting volunteering in their communities. It seems like we can do more, and I know this audience knows that better than else. I'm sure if we asked you now, it would be quite a bit different than that number. Second is if the trend continues and we see that kind of downturn, it's really not good. Unfortunately, it's generally recognized that we are engaging and connecting less with our communities than we used to. Societies are changing, and we know that. There is a strong argument to be made that it matters to our own quality of life and to our community. It is something we should be concerned about. We often exaggerate the role of individual heroes and underestimate the importance of collective effort. It is through collective participation that we enrich our lives and the lives of others around us. So with that bit of downer, tonight we're going to talk a little bit about what do we do? How do we do it? And we've got tremendous examples. And what it means, a relatively simple question, can be phrased in a lot of different ways. Perhaps if we were talking with Larry James, he might say, how do you love your neighbor? What does that mean? Who's your neighbor and how do we love our neighbor? Or in today's language, how do we serve each other? If that's part of what we want to try and do, what does that look like when we go through our day-to-day lives? I was talking with David O'Neill. How do I help? Right? We generally, all of us want to help. It's just not quite clear to us. We have a wonderful group of presenters that will help us think that through just a little bit. We brought together a mix of public, corporate, nonprofit, faith-based leaders to reflect and share what they are doing to support a vibrant social sector and ideas about what it means to build and strengthen communities in Texas. I'm pleased to be able to introduce our first speaker tonight, Mrs. Abbott, who is the First Lady of Texas. In January 2015, Cecilia Abbott made history by becoming the first Hispanic First Lady of Texas. She's been a teacher, vice principal, principal at several Catholic schools across Texas, has worked in senior health care services, is also involved in many educational and philanthropic organizations. Her two main initiatives as First Lady both focus on promoting volunteerism and service to others. Through Texanthropy, she encourages more Texans to give back while highlighting the many amazing organizations and individuals that are already making a difference in their communities. Network of Nurture is a partnership of the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services to raise awareness about how Texans can support children and families in the child welfare system. We're honored to have Mrs. Abbott, and please join me to welcome Mrs. Abbott to the stage.
Well, thank you so much, Will, and I'm so honored to be here this evening. What a perfect place to shine a light on service to others at the Bush School of Government and Public Service, and especially here at the Center for Nonprofits and Philanthropy. Well, if you were here, I would tell Neil, thank you for sharing all that he has done, for sharing his beloved parents with our nation, our state, and with this great university. Well, you know, my husband has always said that he has the best job here in Texas. Well, I'll let you in on a little secret. I think he's wrong about that. I'm pretty sure that I have the best job. I get to travel all across this great state to meet with so many caring individuals like each of you who are making a difference in their communities, who are making tomorrow even brighter for more Texans. And here's the best part. I then get to brag about all the good work that you are doing. Well, after tonight, I will have many more marvelous stories to share, I'm sure. You see, as the First Lady of Texas, this is my top priority, and that is encouraging Texans to give back through volunteerism and through service. And that's why I call it Texanthropy. Texanthropy is the combination of the two things that I am most passionate about, Texas and philanthropy. I thought it was kind of cute. Well, through my travels, I have met so many individuals and organizations and businesses who are so willing to give of their time, their talent, and their treasure to help their communities. And each year, together with the OneStar Foundation, the governor recognizes some of these outstanding volunteers. And I am so pleased that among the first groups we honored with the Governor's Volunteer Award in the first year of Greg's first term was the big event here at Texas A&M University. Well, of course, everything is big here in Texas, right? Texans are just born with big hearts. Well, let me share a story with you about one big heart in one little boy named Jeremiah. This story will break your heart and fill you with awe. Jeremiah is just 8 years old. A few years ago, when his young life was at risk, he was removed from his home by Child Protective Services. When this happens, the children are told to pack whatever they can fit into a bag. Now, Jeremiah didn't have a bag, so he used a trash bag. And he carried this trash bag from foster home to foster home until it fell apart. Because of his experience, Jeremiah decided he wanted to help other children like him. So he started a project to buy duffel bags for caseworkers to take with them and give to each child to pack their belongings in. One small boy, one very big heart. Like little Jeremiah, I believe that we are all each called to serve. That service may simply be sharing a warm smile or a warm meal. And that service may be sharing a few extra hours or a few extra dollars. But that service is such a meaningful gift. Some of you may know that I've been a Meals on Wheels volunteer for many, many years. And I have to tell you, it truly is the highlight of my week. The people I visit are more than clients. They really are my special friends. I worry about them when they're not on that delivery list, and I'm humbled to know that they sometimes worry about me if I have to miss a week. Meals on Wheels volunteers provide such an invaluable service, not just a nutritious meal to feed a hungry client, but also a human touch, a moment of conversation to feed a hungry soul. And I'm touched by how a simple act of kindness can make a world of difference. Well, one week I was delivering a meal to one of my friends when I realized her television wasn't on. Well, that was strange because her TV was always on. My friend was very upset, not because her TV was broken, but because she never failed to give me a weather report when I arrived. Imagine she was the one who was disappointed because she could not help me. Well, I'm happy to say I made a phone call to a few wonderful people, and they were able to take care of that right away. Well, no matter how small, no matter how large, service to others changes lives and saves lives. Let me share one final story. Think back for a moment to August of 2017, when Hurricane Harvey first made landfall and devastated so many families across the coastal Bend region and beyond. Well, never before have I seen so many neighbors helping neighbors and strangers helping new friends. So many individuals, churches, organizations, and businesses came together and gave from their hearts and their hands and their wallets, including through the wonderful event with the 5 former presidents here at A&M. And those efforts continue to support rebuilding even to this day. As we see during floods, fires, and hurricanes, or even in the challenges of daily life, no matter where we come from, we really are all part of the American family. And I thank all of you gathered here tonight for your commitment to serve that family and to serve your community. My hope is that by your leadership, by the light that you shine, you will inspire others to answer the call to serve, to volunteer, and to give back. For the blessings, we have many, and they are multiplied when we share that with others. May God bless you, and may the light of your service continue to shine brightly for all. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, Mrs. Abbott, for all you're doing for the state of Texas and for our country. Your leadership with the Texanthropy project is a wonderful example of the true spirit of Texas. I'll say a few words about our panelists, and then if I ask them to join me up here on stage. Elizabeth Darling was appointed as president and CEO of OneStar Foundation in 2009. OneStar Foundation equips Texans communities to meet their needs by building the capacity of nonprofit organizations and engaging partners to address local needs. As the State Commission for AmeriCorps, OneStar administers approximately $18 million in annual AmeriCorps grant funding to nonprofits, state agencies, educational institutions, and local governments. Before OneStar, she was the Chief Operating Officer of the Corporation for National and Community Service in Washington, D.C., where she provides oversight for programs such as AmeriCorps, Vista, and Senior Corps. Larry James joined the executive leadership of CitySquare as chief executive in 1994. CitySquare fights the causes and effects of poverty through service, advocacy, and friendship. He has spent the last 25 years transforming a food pantry into working in hunger, housing, health, and hope. It provides jobs and health and education services. James served prior as senior pastor for the Richardson East Texas of Christ in Richardson, Texas for 14 years. David O'Neill recently took the Region Vice President position in 2017, and he currently leads and manages a team of over 850 in the Bryan College Station and Austin area. A longtime public servant, O'Neill has been a board member of numerous nonprofit organizations ranging from Habitat Humanity in Austin and Bryan College Station, United Ways of Midland and North Texas, and the Bryan College Station Chamber of Commerce. Please join me to welcome the panelists, and we'll have a nice conversation. Well, now I don't have to do anything. They're going to do all the work now. We got them up here, so we'll let them get it mic'd up and ready to go. I gave you most of these questions before we got started, but I might have a few more that I'll slip in. You ready?
I'm ready.
Everybody in? Did it work?
We're good.
Okay. So pretty easy one, and I'd kind of like to just go down, maybe we'll just go down the panel here, but tell us a little bit about how your organization has helped others to engage and give back and connect in their communities.
All right, well, first, thanks for allowing us to be here. Quite an honor. For us at Wells Fargo, there's a number of different things that the company does, and then some that individually we do. First, we have every team member of our organization gets 2 days, 16 hours that they can go out and serve that's paid time off for philanthropic activities, volunteer activities. We also have a volunteer leave program where team members can apply and have from 3 days to 3 months take a leave of absence paid to where they can serve in a philanthropic activity in a significant role. We also have volunteer chapters. We believe that it's really important for the ground up to really drive the volunteer efforts. So the volunteer chapters, they really drive the activities that we are involved in. It's not a top-down type environment. It's more of a bottom-up. It's what they're interested in, we want to be interested in. And then from an individual standpoint, what we do, and this is probably coming from where I grew up, is it really is part of a team member's development too, can be. So in the boards that I've served, I've learned so much from the individuals that sit around that table, their different points of view and their passions around different things. So what we want to do for those individuals that really want to get on a board and or serve in that capacity, we help them do that and find boards that have an interest for them and then be able to engage them.
That's wonderful. Thank you, David.
You bet.
Larry, you want to give us a little bit?
Let me thank you, Will, for this invitation. Mrs. Abbott, what an honor for all of us to be here with you. Your stories were inspirational. I feel like I need to confess my sin. In 2008, remember 2008, 2007, 2008, the economy tanked. And we had a 15-story building in downtown Dallas under contract for complete renewal. And WAMU was one of our bankers. We had tax credits of 3 different kinds. Wells Fargo stepped in after the crash and brought us, along with the help of some other banks, across the finish line. And I say that to say the culture of engagement that you just described also expresses itself in the ordinary work that people do to make business deals work and to make communities work. And so one of the things we've learned across the years is let's encourage each other in our work life, and let's engage the needs of the community together and feel good about the whole thing. 13 years we've had an AmeriCorps program.
That's right.
We have 350 AmeriCorps members. We're recruiting right now for summer staff. If any of you would like to join, we have about 200 openings, I was told. We're the largest AmeriCorps program in North Texas because of you. And I remember coming to your office in Austin a long time ago and hammering out a vision, again, where you were doing your work, your 24/7, benefited all these people who are volunteers. And the last thing I'll say before I hand it off to Liz, 25 years ago, we recognized early on in a very small little East Dallas food pantry with a budget of under $300,000 that if we didn't engage the people with the problem in the solutions to the problems, we were going to misfire badly. And so we went from having 15 to 20 weekly volunteers who frankly look a lot like me, white old guys and white old women who were doing their duty and really loving it and serving faithfully. And the canned corn was stacked immaculately. We moved from having 15 to 20 volunteers who look like me to having about 300 volunteers who look like East Dallas. And people told me, these folks are going to steal you blind. And finally I came up with an answer to that, and I said, you know, you're right. I've noticed in this business there is some theft. But I've also noticed there are two different kinds of theft going on here. One is pretty simple to understand. It's canned corn out the back door to sell in the alley to meet a need. The other is human dignity stolen at the front door as we do good without ever really knowing the people we're doing good with and to. And I would tell people, I'm going with the canned corn cartel. I can straighten those guys out. But the human dignity pirates have no place in our organization. And so we're not going to allow them in. And that formula's worked really well. And now, thanks to you, we actually have volunteers who are 55, 60 years old from the neighborhood who are AmeriCorps members, serving faithfully their community every day. And so the engagement of people close to the problems of poverty are essential. If you want to know about something, go to someone who's got the problem. And that served us well. And so all the stuff we've done, we're now a $20 million organization, has been because we listened to these people who are our friends and neighbors.
I think this is serendipitous. I don't think you planned this.
This is order. You all did this yourself.
This is very humbling, but gentlemen, thank you for
Thank you.
for sharing this stage, and thank you, Will, and thank you, Mrs. Abbott. OneStar Foundation, I'm sorry, but I think I have the best job. OneStar Foundation is actually charged with strengthening the capacity of the nonprofit sector in the state of Texas. Well, it's a pretty big state. We do that in a number of ways, but primarily we are the National Service Commission for AmeriCorps in Texas, and we have an $18 million portfolio, that's a fancy word, for the organizations that apply to be an AmeriCorps program like CitySquare, and it's a gift of human capital. It's not necessarily just money, but it's a gift of human capital, and Larry mentioned that they are recruiting for members, and the beauty of AmeriCorps is that it's very locally driven, and it's those local solutions in communities that we know can make all the difference. So besides building and strengthening nonprofit organizations through our AmeriCorps program, we also convene the Nonprofit Management Alliance of Texas, which are capacity building organizations that help build the infrastructure of the nonprofit sector. They could be building a volunteer program. They could be helping a nonprofit scope volunteer opportunities so that when volunteers come in, they'll be ready to serve. But we are in the business of promoting service and volunteerism in a number of ways, and AmeriCorps being one of them.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you, each of you. I think the part we did, as far not putting you in order, but we figured out that we got some really neat people that we wanted to hear from. So just to remind that piece does work together. And I saw the connections between all of the way you were going to be talking about connections and service and volunteerism. I appreciate it a bunch. So one sort of broader question still, a little bit, you hear these statistics, people are engaging less than they used to. Why do you think it's important that people continue to try and engage in their communities? Anybody can pick it up, it doesn't matter. David,
Well, it's important because we are the community, first off. We have a saying at our bank, there's never been a thriving bank in a dying community. So from one standpoint, we want to be engaged with the community because it's the right thing to do. From a team member standpoint, it's really critical that we engage our team. Much like what Larry says, we can be out there and promote philanthropy and volunteerism, all that. But if we don't have a good place, a great place to work, if we don't treat our team members fairly, that's just idle words. So we do. It's important that we engage all aspects of our community, and we'll get into that, I think, in a little bit later. But from a pure, why we do it, it's just it's the right thing to do. Our communities need it. There are people that are in need, and I'll give a short story that when I was growing up, my dad was in the Air Force for 20 years. And he was a tech sergeant, so we didn't go to a lot of really exclusive places, but it took me working at a bank and a leader showing me and helping me get involved in the community to really show me what the community looked like. So I believe the other thing for me is it's important for me and our team to really engage and expose our team to the entire community. Everybody in this room, most of us, we go to work, we have a nice job, we go home, we have a nice home, and unless we really look for it, we miss so much. And that happens with our team too. And I think part of leadership is really to, how we help expose them to those in need that are outside of our world that we live in. And I think that's one of the most important things we can do.
Totally agree. 1 in 3 children in Dallas live in poverty. And Dallas is often referred to as the tale of two cities. It's actually the tale of one city, the city no one really recognizes very often. And that's a city that's dominated and defined by growing, deepening poverty. So to your point, when we talk about engagement of professional volunteers, of financially able volunteers, it's for us an education. We're really trying to educate people about the reality of their community. And it's interesting, when people know and see, they do really well. They get just as incensed as we are who live in it every day. And things change. Things begin to be different, and the scale of our problems are such that we're not going to solve them just by being volunteers. But if we have enlightened volunteers with political and policy power, we can make things a lot better for everybody.
Speaking of politics, I've had the privilege of working in state government and in federal government. And now OneStar Foundation is a nonprofit entity, but one that supports the state of Texas. Government can't do it all. As much as some may wish that it could, it cannot do everything. And I always like to say that it's about relationships, and you all have both mentioned that relational element, how important it is. When Mrs. Abbott mentioned the Network to Nurture, the Department of Family and Protective Services, working with communities to find those families who will step forward and come alongside the state to help children in the child welfare system. It's about relationship, and it's about building those bridges across sectors in order to actually make some movement on the intractable problems that we have.
Yes, we talked about education, connections, the importance of helping people understand their communities. Are there other things that you think about in reference to a successful volunteer experience or a successful experience when you try to support or engage people in their connections and giving back? Larry, you gave the example of, folks of wealth and the way that they connect. What are some of the things that you think about when trying to make sure that they have a learning or an educational experience?
So we work really hard. We have a staff of about 170 full-time people working all over Dallas and a number of initiatives. And we work really hard on creating and nurturing a culture of friendship and respect. I mean, so if you come kind of into our shop, you're going to, if we're being successful that day, you're going to encounter people who expect that you're a friend, because that's just the culture. And that is so empowering to people. It's empowering to somebody like me who can be a dumb lummox, because it opens my eyes. It can also be empowering to someone who's just off the street or who lives across the street in one of our cottages we built. It's real. We're friends. As you said, we are the community, and we need each other. And it needs to go beyond our projects, as important as those are and as catalytic as those can be, to really seeing each other and really engaging in an understanding of your life as I tell you the story of my life. And that happens a lot, and that's transformative.
I think it's important, I'm going to get down into kind of the weeds, but nonprofit organizations often talk about wanting to have volunteers, but it's really important that we prepare nonprofits to scope the opportunity, if you will, to talk about what's expected and to give the tools to volunteers, and of course to ask them to serve, but then to connect it with the mission so that they see how what their volunteer service is doing to further the mission or to meet that need in the community, so they feel a connection. But we have to give them the resources and make sure that they're successful, and then always appreciate them.
Because I think back, there's lots of examples of people this idea of wanting to give back, but then not really being able to find a place that allows them to feel fulfilled or to feel connected or to have those different components. And so it's what I appreciate the work that you guys do up at CitySquare and trying to really create that sense of a community there where people can become a participant in that. It doesn't seem like it's always, I think I agree with Liz's assessment. There's more work to be done in reference to how agencies think about what they do or how organizations think about what they do in reference to connecting people to their communities. Maybe a little bit about how you see your role in that way. How is it that the bank might be able to help foster this sense of successful engagement? You touched on it a little bit. I don't know whether you want to add in a little bit more there or not.
Well, I think I think every organization can be a conduit, because in the world we live in, problems are complex, and while one organization may be looking to solve one issue at times, it's much more complex than that. You have to go back and find out what the root cause is, and that in of itself means that we've got to do more collaboration. So bankers like to think, anyway, that we know a lot of people. No laughing, but we like to think that. So I believe we can be a conduit of that to bring people together, at least have a seat at the table, to where we can at least be part of the conversation to bring folks together and see where that conversation may lead.
I do think there's a role across all sectors. Business
Absolutely.
needs to be engaged and embedded in the community to help solve problems. Government has a role. Philanthropy, this is for you, Will, can come alongside those other efforts and actually help them be more successful. There are a lot of things that government is, they can be the door or open the channel for voluntary action. One of the largest volunteer organizations in the state of Texas is the Department of Criminal Justice. Thousands of volunteers that come in and do multiple service opportunities, some that are long-term and relational, and yet it takes businesses to come in and help fund certain things, and it takes philanthropy as well, and just a great opportunity for us to see how we can collaborate in smarter ways.
We touched on it a little bit, but I want to revisit sort of Larry's phrase there about the human dignity pirates, or the sense of how do we ensure that we empower and support the local capacity, that we don't come in and take things away from people in our efforts to try and go in and give back, right? Because I know that that's the other thing I see sometimes is people don't always appreciate the context that they're operating in, and yet we want people to be able to become informed and educated about their engagement. So how do we balance those two things?
It's kind of a golden rule thing. I mean, if I can understand how someone who's dealing with deep poverty lives and what they face and what they worry about and what their challenges are, and if I can put myself in their shoes, that's going to alter my approach to them. It's probably going to make it more authentic. Somebody that I think quite a bit of is once said, it's more blessed to give than to receive. If that's true, giving is not the highest good, but placing the other in a position to give is. And when low-income people are given a chance to get in the game with the bankers and the doctors and the lawyers, and the bankers and the doctors and the lawyers understand the game, and they're trying to change it, magic breaks out. I mean, people come together beyond the moment of service, and that's instrumental and formative. It's the excuse we have to let service transform us. But there's reciprocity. If reciprocity doesn't exist in a relationship, it's on the wrong track. And so we work hard at that, respecting poor people. I can't even say it without putting it in quotes. Because the poor, we're all rich and we're all poor just in different ways. And the poor have a wealth, a deep wealth that we need to go to school on and spend some of it, cash and credit, and learn from one another. It works. It just happens.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that, what you said, just approaching each person with a recognition of their dignity and the assumption that they want to be self-sufficient, they want to feed their children, they want to work, and how can we help empower them to do what they already want to do at whatever level of success is meaningful for them. I think it's an attitude and an openness of heart that is really required for that work.
And as I think about that, I think about how do we connect that to people, to working folks. And I believe that we're all created to serve. We've got that in us, and we get a lot of joy out of it. And what I've seen anyway is when we can help a team member or help any individual be in a position to give of service, to help somebody else, all of a sudden that connection, it's not a connection just to a person, it's a connection to each other's heart. And that connection is something that is long lasting and will help the next interaction and the next interaction and the next person they come in contact with. And it just flows and it works. But that connection, to get somebody to volunteer, anybody can sign up today and go, right, I want to volunteer to do X, Y, or Z. That's part of it, but it's really how do we connect their heart to the work that needs to be done to help others.
Yeah.
25 years ago, there was a Hispanic grandma that was instrumental in changing our whole world. And it started when I simply asked her for help. I said, ma'am, I need your help. She was stunned that I would ask her for help. And it was a genuine request for some help, and she delivered. And then she turned back to me as she was about to leave our center, and she said, Larry, I could come back tomorrow and help you out. And I said, well, Josefina, you can sure see that I need your help. And she came back tomorrow for 9 years. She became the leader of the food center. All I asked was, I just need some help.
I'm not sure where this fits into the conversation, but I think the older I get, the more I realize that, not to make anybody uncomfortable, but everybody in this room has something they're dealing with.
Absolutely.
And if we think that we don't, just wait. But it's such, I have found that service helps put my life in perspective too, and gives me a way to kind of recalibrate and not just be appreciative for my own troubles. I'll take mine over yours, you can have yours. But I think we all can benefit from that, and if we think that we are not in need, then a little introspection might be called for.
And you're instructive. The work you do puts people in long-term service opportunities, relatively long-term, and very focused. And there's training involved that helps everybody grow as people. And what you do and what you prepare your clients to do is transformative. And so you've got to feel great about that, because your model is really effective.
When you mentioned that I was at the Corporation for National and Community Service in Washington, I was, when I looked at that position, it was stunning to me. It's a federal agency. Who would think they could be helpful? But their whole mission was to build the capacity and strength of nonprofit organizations in that very way, through AmeriCorps, through Senior Corps, through Vista. I thought that was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen, because government can't do it all, but here's a government agency really trying to find the secret sauce, if you will, of how to strengthen the nonprofit sector so that more good work can get done.
Right.
The kind of volunteer engagement that you all are discussing can be very transformative. It becomes from an authentic place. And I guess just a little bit more about how we help, either folks in the audience or how we help each of us sort of think about how we come at it humbly. I hear an importance of openness and treating others. I don't know, any other thoughts on how we can, because at times it might almost feel overwhelming as I think about sort of what Larry was doing and the work that he's doing in the inner city there. I mean, that isn't something that's necessarily approachable for me at this point. So I don't know, thinking a little bit about how far sometimes those gaps are between the people who maybe want to give and the people who potentially are in positions of feeling like they're the recipient of some of that efforts and work.
It's a learning experience, and I think it has application what we're talking about, no matter how much time you have to give or how little. It's really just it's a viewpoint about people and the nature of people, and the fact that people are worth it, and that people are incredible. I mean, they're just all of them. I mean, it's just there's so much there to experience And in the honest experience that we have with one another, that's when communities change. You know.
And when I think my example of children in the child welfare system, you don't have to adopt a child, you don't have to foster a child, but maybe you take some special supplies to the Children's Resource Center for those children who are removed from their homes so that they'll have something when they're placed. There are incremental opportunities from one end of the spectrum to the other, but just there's probably an opportunity for anyone who would like to serve. They don't have to jump off the cliff to do the adoption of 10 children to keep a family together.
Incremental.
Yeah, well, as I'm thinking, you had mentioned earlier when you spoke about volunteerism and the hours declining over time. And, as I'm going to be the old guy now, okay? I'm the old guy.
Me too.
But as I think about my generation, I'm a baby boomer. Generally speaking, we served because it was the right thing to do. There was a need there, and we really didn't care what it was. We just served, right? And that's kind of how we went about things.
Part of the deal, right?
It is part of the deal. It's just part of it. Nothing against millennials or any young people in here. Everybody's younger than me probably in here. But, there's my experience anyway with our team members is that millennials are a bit misunderstood. They care just as much as we do, our generation. And I like to think that where our generation, we spread out and we tried to change the world and really move forward. They're more tactical, or they go deep. And what I mean by that is, if you can reach, not if, but when you reach a younger millennial, for example, in an area, and you help them see the need, which is, I believe, our responsibility. When they do that, then they get involved at a much deeper level, I believe, than even some of our generation might. And it's really then you just get out of the way. And I don't know if there's anybody in the back nodding your head, but that's my experience anyway, is that we just have to help guide the next generation to things that they have an interest in.
To engage the way
the way they want to be engaged. Thank you.
And then they'll bring their friends because they're...
Oh, you know it. They've got all their friends in social media.
That's right.
Other thoughts about
Yeah,
that?
so I'm sitting by a banker and by a woman who controls this gigantic organization. Can I just put in a good word for money? How many times have I heard someone say, well, you can't solve a problem by just throwing money at it? Well, let's try that one. Just give me one time.
It sure helps.
Just give me one time. Because where I live, ain't nobody throwing money. Now, people are talking about it, but if your gift in life is to be unbelievably successful, and you have a heart of generosity, I would encourage you to get engaged at a volunteer level somewhere, somehow, doing something. But I would urge you, I would challenge you to look at your strengths, which obviously could be making a lot of money, and give your money away. Because that's maybe the ultimate kind of volunteerism. You're financing something that you're not going to ever really control, but you believe in the mission and you see the benefit. So let's stop poo-pooing money. The banker's going to, be not happy if we do that. But so I'm not going to be happy either, because we can't do anything without money.
Yeah, it's time, it's talents, but it's also our resources and our money.
Absolutely.
And it's the things that we have and the way we're able to give back. No, I think it's absolutely.
And so a message to students is that you don't have to take a vow of poverty to serve.
Right.
You don't. You could be the next Bill Gates.
But the other
Maybe
important
not.
message, right, was stay connected in some way to the communities that you're in and connected to the people. I was going ahead, I didn't mean to interrupt. But
So many contracts that we evaluate that come to us from the city of Dallas, for example, or from Dallas County, or even from HUD for housing, there are local matches required for those funds. And so it's all public-private. And so we have to find those dollars to get those dollars so we can actually do the work we do. Without donors who are invested and involved, we can't do our work.
Any reflections about why you all might think those numbers in volunteerism are going down? We're talking about that people don't care less. We know that's true. I mean, we see it with our Bush School students. We see it with a lot of students. Any thoughts or any reflections on that?
I get all crazy sociological on you, and I probably shouldn't do that.
Go ahead.
That's all right.
I just wonder if, we've heard a little bit about social media almost creating a barrier among people, and a lack of relationship, a lack of trust perhaps. I don't know if that's true. You guys figured that out on a Cornerstone project. But it makes me wonder if we're not a little bit more isolated at a time when we think we're actually more connected than we've ever been.
I wonder.
Just
and I wonder
thought.
what do we count? What do you count as engagement? I wonder if we're just not. Maybe things have shifted, and we're not counting what's actually happening.
Could be.
We're using old mechanisms or something. I'm not sure. It's also. And I think this could help us. So, have you noticed it's kind of a mean-spirited time in America? Just a little bit on both sides, all sides. And I think we could provide some leadership just by doing the right thing and just by not being put off and just being committed to love each other. I mean, can we say that and just really mean it and let that affect how we react to the meanness? It's bewildering at times, but yeah.
Other reflections as we sort of look ahead and imagine advice there's a mixed audience here.
You know, I think, we brought up social media a little bit. I think there's an opportunity for that to be good, for that to be a form of good. And as I look at not-for-profits, is there a way to leverage that to be able to tell the story in a social media environment better than what we do today in some cases?
Yeah.
And especially when there's stories to tell around collaboration, when we're really deep in the weeds solving problems. Is that an avenue? And I'd like to think there's some opportunity there.
We couldn't do anything we do without partnerships, whether you're talking about Baylor Scott and White Hospital or Parkland Health and Hospital System or the banking community, legal services in Northwest Texas, AmeriCorps. It just kind of goes on and on and on.
Right.
If I believe that if we're honest about really engaging, we'll be fairly. We won't discriminate. We'll be willing to work with anybody who's on board to solve the problem. And that leads into all kinds of amazing connections. Yeah. And again, I keep coming back to AmeriCorps. That's what you help us do that. Our grant serves CitySquare, but it also serves 35 other agencies. So we're woven together through your program.
That's great.
That's unbelievable.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the importance across all sectors to look at the full cost of nonprofit business. Mm-hmm. Because so often, whether it's government or philanthropy, we don't expect, we're expected to do it on a shoestring, and that's ridiculous, because we want quality, we want to be accountable, we want to serve more, but there is a full cost to doing business. And I think that it would be helpful if we not let that get lost in our doing good.
Right.
We can do even better.
Yeah. With more money.
With more money. And spent in the right way.
And a banker actually said that.
Yeah. Well, and by a commitment to excellence.
Right.
I mean, we're in the past 15 years, we've had mergers with smaller groups, so they wouldn't have to have any back office costs. We can consolidate that in our shop and continue to do the work and have more money to function so efficiently. And the whole media, social media thing, there's a guy in Dallas, Wayne Walker, He leads an outfit called Our Calling. He has an app on his phone that would GPS every homeless person that he's interviewed and has agreed to join his system. He's got thousands of names and pictures and whereabouts of folks who are living under bridges in Dallas. And it's all because he's a millennial tech guru, and he's created this unbelievable product.
I love that, because that's the example of a human connecting, but then using the tool as a way to be able to, because that's the challenge, right? We don't want to be disconnected behind our screen. We want to be able to use them to facilitate the connections, I think.
I commend your work here because the excellence of this university devoted to this issue is incredible.
Last additional thoughts? We could obviously go on for quite some time. Yeah, appreciate the panel, the recognition. That's Lori Taylor to come up. Thank you, Lori. I appreciate that.
Thank you all. It was an amazing presentation, amazing keynote address from we're very honored that our First Lady was here to be able to give that to us. I've been involved with the Bank of America program on volunteerism for more time than I will fess up in public. I've attended a number of these lovely events, and I was ready with a quip on how my former organization, the Boston Becker Institute, was so pleased to be that the Center for Nonprofit and Philanthropy was taking good care of our baby. But then I started counting on my fingers, and Bank of America was endowed the program on volunteerism in 2000. So we're talking teenager here. Mm-hmm. And so I should be apologizing a bit for giving you a fractious teenager. But you're taking wonderful care of it, and we're just so very proud and pleased that, as you said earlier, that the program on volunteerism has basically come home to exactly the right place in the school, which is the Center on Nonprofits and Philanthropy. We'd like to thank our speakers for helping us make this lovely transition and make this possible. We have arranged for a collection of lovely plaques suitable for hanging on walls, because Bush School bling is very important to everyone that comes to visit. We wanted to thank you, Mrs. Abbott, first, because we could not have been more pleased with the heartfelt and heartwarming presentation that you gave us to kick off our evening this evening. If you wouldn't mind please coming to accept this lovely item, we'd be grateful. And then, of course, we didn't want our other panelists to feel left out, so we have lovely plaques for them too, because we are really good at the manufacture of plaques here in College Station. So I'd like y'all to thank me once again and express our appreciation to the members of the panel, Elizabeth Darling, David O'Neill, and Larry James. So I want to thank you all for coming. We hope you'll be here next year when I'm sure the program will try to be as inspirational and effective as this one. It's a wonderful opportunity to remind everybody of the role of nonprofits and philanthropy in making our society a better place. I want to say good night and wish you well and hope you drive careful life.